So now I'm going to do some Ask Me Anythings. I've gotten some requests and comments for topics, and I want to hit some of these. So the first one that I got here is from Abby. She says, how does one stop thinking about their gender nonstop? Being boy mode at home and being alone, it's confusing, and I'm doubting my gender. Well, I think thinking about gender nonstop is... I mean, we're on this show, we're talking about gender, we're talking about being transgender, but it doesn't have to be about your gender. Not everything has to be gendered. Really, your gender exists in a social context, because if there's no one around you to treat you in any kind of way, there's a lot less of a gendered experience because there's no societal constructs that are around that. And yes, we say gender is a social construct, but I also think there are some aspects of femininity and masculinity that you can feel in your body that are present whether or not you're around someone or not. Sometimes I feel masculine, sometimes I feel like a guy, but I also know this is a process of change, and that as you spend more time getting comfortable in your body, that feeling of like analyzing your gender or feeling like if you are the gender that you should be kind of dissipates and goes away. So my advice to you to kind of stop thinking about gender is to really just start to accept who you are and say, you know what, I am a woman, or you know what, I am a man, or however you identify, to just say that to your heart, to wake up in the morning and to clear yourself of anything inside you that feels like it is the gender that you don't want, and to just let that go and to be empty and to just say, I am, and I am this nothing. I am just this clear, empty void that can be whatever it wants to be within any moment. It's like a baseball. How do you catch yourself if you already have a ball in the glove? And that's what you wake up with. That's what you're programmed with, is you have this kind of like gender ball, like let's say male to female. You have this male ball in your hand when you wake up because it's in your subconscious. It's in a part of you that's just stuck there, and you're used to holding it. And you can't really hold your female gender if you're already holding another ball. It's like holding two balls. It becomes a little hard to navigate. And perhaps that's some of the friction that you're experiencing, is feeling like you're holding two balls that are in conflict with each other. So the best thing to do is to kind of clear yourself in the morning and figure out ways to just let go of this ball, this male ball, and then let it just be open. You don't have to put the female ball in to kind of force the change, because that can be conflict. Instead, you just kind of leave the hand open. You let it be empty, and you let whatever comes into you at any moment, you catch it, and you just let it be in that moment, and then you let it go. And this letting go process will show you the fluidity in how you can change and how you can be whoever you want to be in any moment. And soon you will find that femininity. You will find those parts of your gender that you want to express. And as you catch those ones, because you have an open hand, you can start to collect those pieces, and maybe they kind of like turn into dust on your hand. I don't know. I don't want to take this analogy too far, but I think you know what I mean. So that's that for you, Abby. Another question from Emma. What gives you the most permission to get into your femininity when you feel locked away by shame or other things? Whew. Shame or other things. Yeah, I remember the shame, a lot of shame. I think stepping into it and continuing to step into it. Like, have you ever had those feelings where you've put on something and you felt really good? Allow yourself to feel good and say, you know what, this feels great. And maybe I'm not accepted by the people around me, but this feels really good to myself. And celebrate that and learn to normalize that celebration to yourself. So that way you kind of create this small bubble around you of safety, of certainty, like this feels good. There is that part of you that may be inner transphobic or want to hold back or just be like judgy and all of that. And that can happen. But if you envelop that with love and you envelop it with like, no, this feels great. I'm happy doing this. This can't be bad if I feel happy. It can't be bad. The only way it can be bad is if someone else says it's bad, right? Like, so, for me, how I would do this and how I remember doing this is I would get dressed up in lingerie and I would like look at my body and I would take pictures and I'd be like, oh, that's like sexy and that looks good. And yes, there'd be some shame like, oh, I'm a cross-dresser or whatever. But that cultivated within me a good feeling of just like, you know what? I can be sexy and you know what? I can be attractive and this does feel good. And that was my starting point to then say, you know what? I think I want to wear a dress in public. I think I want to put on makeup. And that's like the next thing. And you kind of start to do that and you start to do that at home. And eventually it becomes normal. You feel less shame about it. And then you can step out into the world and kind of continue that. That's what I would give advice for. All right, Alice. I am interested to hear more regarding spiritual life. You had hinted that you would dive into this at some point. I would love to get a chance to see things from your perspective. Whew. Okay, well, I'll have to make a whole video on this, but to be brief, maybe I will just say transitioning was the alignment of my spiritual life. I got into like new age meditation, chakras and stuff, maybe like 10 or 12 years ago when I was trying to figure out my life, when I felt lost, when I didn't have a career or I didn't know where I was going. I would see a psychic and I would go to some events and it was very cool. It was very like expanding, but there's a lot of stuff in the New Age community that I feel like is junk or very cis and very heteronormative that just didn't resonate with me. And there's just like drama in there, like people who are gurus, they speak as if they're all high and mighty, but then you hear things behind the scenes where they're just not acting with integrity. And so I got disillusioned with that. However, once I was at this festival and this was 2 years ago, I like was playing around, dancing, and I was like moving with like my energy just for fun. And suddenly I had these chakra energy points above my head open up and my soul, like a part of my soul fell into me. And it was her. It was the part of me that I had ignored and I had kind of like hidden from myself when I was 3 or 4, my feminine self. And so when she came into me, because it felt like me, but it was also felt like her, she told me a bunch of things. She told me, hey, like you need to help other people do this, which I think means really like the heavens and the earth finding balance, centering. And you need to broadcast that and give that to the world. And I think that's what I'm doing now is speaking and sharing. I was never a speaker before. I was never a writer. I write a lot too. And so my kind of transition has been a snapping into place. It wasn't like a slow process of my whole life, I'm trans and I know this. It was like, I like dressing in feminine clothes. And then I like, I feel like feminine and it feels good. And then suddenly it became like, you're a woman. So I'll touch on that more in another video. I'll have to leave that open because that's a bigger question. Last question I'll take. Can you be fully transitioned within a few years? Yeah, I mean, you can be fully transitioned tomorrow. It's really on you in terms of the internal work that you want to do. Like where do you stand in accepting yourself and kind of moving past the shame and the guilt and then like the fear and then like the boundaries. I talk about this in the 6 steps of like discovering my gender, where it's like you move through this process towards self-acceptance. And the faster you move towards self-acceptance, the sooner you'll be done with your transition. But then there's also logistical changes. So you can be done with your transition internally, but you still may want to do surgeries. So if you want to do surgeries, that kind of extends the transition in a way, because like for me, I just got my breast surgery and I accept myself as a woman. I do. But the surgeries are things that I'm still doing right now. And so my transition isn't over in that sense. And honestly, I don't want it to be over because I love the exercise of changing and moving and shifting. Yeah, I don't want it to be over. So I would say my transition will never end, probably because there's always something deeper within oneself that you can find. And I think this is the part that can be ignored by some people who transition, is there's this like, oh, I've like gone within myself and I know something and then that's it. I'm a woman and then I execute and I do the logistics. I got my boobs, my vaginoplasty, and then it's over and I'm a woman. But I think there's a doorway, there's a gateway inside yourself, the same one that helps you discover your gender, that actually also helps you discover your connection with the universe, that helps you discover your connection with the world. Have you ever felt something shift within you where you just feel connected with everything around you? There's a doorway within that I think gives you the access to everything. And everything without is what came to me. There's a doorway within that gives you access to everything without, which is to say, it gives you access to the nothing as well as the everything. There's some kind of gate within the heart and within your consciousness. I'll leave it at that. I don't know how long this AMA has been, but thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.